Riddick and Divine Worship. The 47th number song says, clap your hands, O ye people, and shout unto God with the voice of triumph. For the Lord Most High, He's over all the earth. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, come on and clap your hands with me. Come on.
So I got my start in music at birth. My grandmother and my mother were both lead singers and great background singers in their own right. And at the time, they were members of Union Kentsville Baptist Church, right in Virginia Beach. And then in the 80s, the early 80s, my mom got saved and joined this church in 1980. Of course, we were not in this sanctuary, but my earliest memories were of them playing their records: Walter Hawkins, Thomas Whitfield, Benny Cummings, Danny Bell Hall, the list goes on, Andre Crouch, the list goes on and on and on. And they would put those records on, and I would pull out my piano or my microphone, and I was going to sing, I was going to direct. On one side and on the other side, and was called for the selection. Of course, I'm getting up, and I stood the choir up. The band was always to my right, and we would go in and do our selections. I think at that time, I was maybe 19. I want to say I was 18 or 19 years old. And it was about 97 or 98 that we started the Young Adult Choir here at this church, New Jerusalem Church of God in Christ. In 2000, around 2000, well, right before 2000, the end of 98, I remember in the fall, Bishop Thurgood said, listen, this is my church choir. You know, y'all are not recording artists. You can't keep taking my choir and running all across the country, across the state, city, or whatever, singing. You better do something. And I got together with a couple of friends, and we started what was known as, not what was known, but what is known as Divine Worship. And we had our first auditions actually across the street in our educational building. I never forget it. And from then on, it was history. That's how we got started. Angie Tonette.
Really? The whole thing?
Been with me all 20 years. And I'ma say, many have come and many have gone. But you stood the test of time. It's four of y'all. It's you, Chamika, Shamika, and Rita are the last of the original singers. But even out of those three lovely ladies, you're the only one that didn't take a break. You were there when we were Young Adult Choir and Bishop kicked us out. And he told us, you got to do something else because you couldn't run my church choir, to being in your dining room. Did you think I was crazy that night?
I did. You and Shar and Dave. It was like, I need these people to get out my house. I'm ready to go to bed. It was late. 1056 East Ocean View Avenue. 20 years ago, Divine Worship Ministries was the original name.
Some of the things that I try to keep the same is we will always wear uniforms. We will always be a choir of excellence. We will always be animated. We will always be aggressive in our vocals. We're gonna always be trendsetters. We came on the scene in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we set a lot of standards.
Thank you. This has been my sentiment all year long.
Over the years, and I think about the 20 years, we had so many people that had never even crossed the Virginia state line. And a lot of people were blessed to travel and see different parts of our country as a result of being in Divine Worship. There are a lot of other groups here locally as well, and we thank God a lot of them came out of this choir. I'll list some of them, but we've always been trendsetters. We always kind of set the standard for choirs. There were choirs that came before us that were amazing. Peggy Britt and the Philharmonics, Amos Davis and Angela Cortez, Willie Copeland and the Choir Joy, and a couple of Ron Simpson and the Virginia Beach Interdenominational Choir. But there was a huge gap where there were none. Singing Clap Your Hands and writing that on the airplane back in 98, where it would put us now. Stellars and Steeple Awards and all that kind of stuff. And Billboard, coming out of here, Billboard. God has been good to us.
He has been good.
One word that would sum up 20 years, consistency. While everybody changed their names, tried to find different gimmicks, we stayed churchy. We stayed divine worship. We stayed loud. We stayed uniform. We stayed and stuck to what made us who we were and what made people fall in love with us. We didn't change our music. We didn't do any of that. We stayed consistent. We kept singing. We kept going when we weren't popular. We kept going till we became popular. We kept going even when we weren't popular again. We just stayed consistent. Consistent till we got our first record deal. Consistent till we were 3 records in. National recording artist with radio airplay. Stellar nominations. Consistency.
Let's rejoice.